Welcome back to another Glory Reds FC podcast. And today we got a special for y'all. What's up, Ben?
What's good, Pastor D? What's good, my dude?
Oh, good, oh, good. And I think it's only fitting and only fair that you should introduce or announce this special podcast episode that we're going to be doing today because this is one that sits close to your heart. You know what I mean? This is one that, I'm pretty sure between, me and you is the one you were probably looking forward to the most. You know what I'm saying? So, and I do believe you're going to have a lot to say about, what's going to transpire during this special episode. So take it away, man. Let us know what's up.
I'll try not to get carried away because, I'm excited about this. But, man, the guy that we're going to talk about is very close to me. He's a very special guy in terms of the man that made me love the game that we love so much.
Yeah.
The man that had the technique that inspired a generation.
Amen.
The man with the famous free kick to send England into the World Cup finals.
Talk to us.
The man with the magic right foot.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, my wife, Daddy David Beckham, guys. Let's go.
Round of applause.
So we're gonna talk about his documentary.
Yeah.
What a beautiful docu-series. I think everything I say is going to be from a very biased point of view. So I know maybe some people are not going to agree with some of the things, but I think after watching that thing, there's nothing really negative to say about Daddy Beckham. You know what I mean? That guy is just phenomenal. And I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited. Let's jump into it, D. Let's jump into it.
Yeah. Let's just jump into it. So this is a 4-part series that's available on Netflix. If you guys haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's really a good watch. So we're gonna talk through this documentary, some of the highlights, the low points, and ultimately what we took out of this documentary and how it, relates to what we are going through as current United fans, towards the players and also towards the club. But of course, so, majority about this episode is gonna be David Beckham in question. So yeah, man, let's kick things off. The documentary kicks off by showing some nostalgic moments, these like flashbacks of Bex, with the gaffer, pictures of him with his family and his pops, and really giving us this backstory in terms of how he, grew to love football, how he grew to become a United fan. So yeah, man, walk us through that event that transpired in the documentary.
I mean, okay, so it just starts off with Beckham, obviously, that he starts off talking about how it's all started, who inspired him, why he became the person that he was. And you see that throughout the series because you always see references to everything that leads back to how he started,
Yeah.
So you take into you look at the fact that his father was actually somebody that was very, very influential in his upbringing. The father was a Manchester United fan, Manchester football lover, just like all of us. And it's a case of, I think it's a case of culture because, I mean, you look at other countries, especially like here in Africa, we don't have this culture of parents really paying too much attention to your passions and stuff. But in his case, they identified the passion and they fed it. They endorsed it and then they pushed him and then they pushed him. And one of the things that his father instilled in him is hard work. In this new football day and age, you have to be a hard worker. That's the one fundamental rule that you can't go there and expect to half-ass trainings or games. You know what I mean? So he talked about hard work, and his father was big on, I guess, precision, right? Because he kept on emphasizing on him to take a lot of corners, left foot, right foot, and it was day after day after day after day. every day, long hours, just doing the exact same thing.
Mm.
It was, I think he described it as building muscle memory. And
Yeah.
then you see throughout David Beckham's career, like even
Mm.
on the docu series, you see the same thing that he was doing as a child. He just stuck
Yeah.
to it. He just
Yeah.
stuck to it and just kept on doing it, doing it, doing it. He mastered his craft. Like he mastered everything that he was good at, and
Yeah.
that was all a ball control. You know,
Mm.
uh, what else did the father mention? I think I'm missing something. Um, what else is it that I'm missing? When that one of those key fundamental um, ingredients that were brought up to with Beckham.
I think okay, not maybe I could be paraphrasing over here, but just being disciplined, you know.
Being disciplined, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So, and then you look at how everything else connects to how United is. It's a very, very complete contrast because we've had situations with the new era of United fans. I mean, not currently, but it has been something that has been growing when we talk about players not grafting and not, and then you see the two comparisons and you'll be like, back in the day, hard work and grit was a necessity. It was something that you needed to have in order for you to succeed at Manchester United. And you
Yeah.
see the kind of contrast in some players nowadays, you can say,
Yeah.
with news that are coming out, you see that maybe there's that culture has also slipped away.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, David Beckham was brought up in a very humble, hardworking, and you could easily say, I don't want to say he was sort of privileged because he kind of like made these connections, but he wasn't. He just grew up in a very nice home, and the kid was
Yeah.
talented. Just happened to be a very pretty boy,
Yeah.
and that also kind of like played into his whole thing because
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Mm.
yeah, man, it starts off like that. But anything you wanted to add on to that?
Yeah, I think we learned a lot about the grassroots days, and his father being this huge Bobby Charlton fan, this huge Manchester United fan, and like you said, like his family really supported his dream, because in turn it was also his father's dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they had that shared passion, so it was very easy for the father to step in and encourage him, in his football. Like he was really involved in, how can I say, in his development, because he was there for the practices. He spoke about all the video recordings that they used to come back and watch and see where they needed to improve, and just sticking to a very set routine about, if you want to get to the top and you want to be the best, then this is the formula you need to follow,
Mm,
and
mm,
building that foundation is very, we could see that a lot of players, and we've seen a lot of documentaries that have come out, Wayne Rooney, Paul Pogba, etc. The one
mm,
thing that you've always noticed from these documentaries is that discipline and striving for something. Like the sky wasn't the limit. You know what I mean? They wanted to touch the stars. you know um Even later on, not to jump ahead of ourselves, but there was something David Beckham said that really like resonated with me when he said, I don't think anyone loves the game more than I do. You know what I
mm,
mean? And that's how he sort of described his career, where he just kept pushing and fighting and wanted to play for as long as possible, because he ultimately believed he was the biggest football enthusiast they could be on this planet. You
yeah,
understand? And
yeah.
when you look at a lot of players like that from back in the day who strive for that excellence, they all had that similar mantra in terms of, in order for me to be there, I need to embody everything that has to do with this sport. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And just carry that on into their careers. And that's how, David Beckham went from grassroots to now being able to be scouted by the United, what you call this, recruitment. And then, of course, that's when
the rest of history.
the rest is history. You know what I mean? And then he joined the class of '92. And
Mm,
then started
mm,
his Manchester United journey. So yeah, so obviously, he started his football journey, expressed in the documentary that she was happy, to be playing alongside players like Walt Cantona. You know what I mean? He
mm,
was there alongside with Roy Keane and the likes, you know. And one thing that you could tell from the documentary is he really had a big impact when he started
He
playing.
did.
I know maybe the older guys who are older than us were privileged to watch Beckham in those early days. When he started playing for Manchester, I think we were just way too young to really like, you know what I mean, watch it and really understand, the brilliance of a player that he was. We can only look back to videos and sort of appreciate all that happened. But yeah,
No,
man.
but
Now,
we okay. For me, honestly, I never, for example, I never watched the '99 final. I
mm,
think at that time back in the days we didn't have access to these things. I think it's
yes,
when DSTV, when we started getting DSTV in Africa running,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
when we were now able to see all these games. And
exactly,
honestly, I have seen my boy play. During those times I was a kid, but I
yeah,
did see him play.
yes,
And I remember, anyway, we'll jump into it, but I remember the time when he moved to Real Madrid.
yeah,
I was actually in boarding school, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
where we used to get news was through
yes,
newspapers or these books that would come out monthly and stuff. So what we
yeah,
would do, we would cut out some pages and then stick them in our own book and have like a little collage book with football players and stuff. And
yeah,
I had hundreds of them of Beckham was just there. I would
yeah,
wait, I would wait for those posters, those full posters, and
yeah,
in
yeah,
mag-
yeah.
just pull out the whole thing,
Of
and
the magazine,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And I knew about it, and I remember I was in boarding school, and I found out, and I was so sad because I was
yeah,
like, damn. So now when I go back home to now get to what I'm not gonna see him, I'm gonna see him with Real
exactly,
Madrid, and I was
yeah,
upset about it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, man, yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
yeah,
but of course, yeah, like we said, from grassroots to Manchester United, during that famous class of '92, that obviously ultimately went to win, their first title after, I think it was plus 20 years or something like that, and then started this
yeah.
whole new reign of that generation. So yeah, man, I think again, take us through those early days of, Beckham in United and how it was for him, how express how it was just being in that club and everything that was going in and around that space when he was ascending to becoming a very well-known player in the sports community.
It's funny because the docu series starts with him and that famous Wimbledon goal, that halfway
Yeah,
line goal.
yeah,
Man,
yeah,
that
yeah,
just you know, it was wild. And
yeah,
already at that time, you could tell that he was already beginning to things were clicking, things
yeah.
were making sense. He was donning the number 10 shirt, and here's just a little
Was
bit
it the
extra.
number 10 or the 20, or was it 23?
He was wearing the number 10 at that time.
The number 10. Okay.
Yeah. The number 23, I think it was his earlier because he wore a couple of numbers. And
Yeah.
so just to show how much this guy means to me, here's a little story about the how he moved to number 10 from number 10 to number 7.
All right.
And so he was wearing that number 10 jersey. And then in the docu-series, they don't actually say anything about how
Yeah,
he
they
actually.
don't cover it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was wearing that thing right up until Cantona.
Yeah.
Uh was leaving the club, the
Okay.
time when he was about to leave. Now,
Yeah.
Alex Ferguson at the time had brought in Teddy Sheringham on
Yes.
loan to help us win the 99 or whatever. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
mm.
So he brought the guy in. He didn't tell Beckham. I think Beckham was on holiday or something like that. Beckham just came back to training or to Carrington there and he sees that there's no number 10. Number
Okay.
10 just gone.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's
yeah.
upset. He's upset. And then the
Yeah.
gaffer just comes to him and says, "Hey, here's the number 7." And his
Mm.
eyes just went boom. He didn't mention it, but hey, when he told me that story, I was like, wow. He's like,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
number 7 was worn by George Best. It has been worn
yeah.
by greats. So I'm going
Mm.
to don it. And him, Cantona being the king of Manchester United,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah,
it was a good feeling. And it was happy. And that's how he got the number 7 shirt, just so that
yeah,
anybody. But
yeah,
yeah, man, with the class of 92, those guys, that group of players was very special because every single player, every single one of those guys was sort of brought up in this um, culture of hard work, grit.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
Yeah.
get anywhere if you don't put in the graft and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So in a very weird way, it worked at that time. I honestly do not think we can ever replicate the class of 92. I don't think any
Yeah.
club can
Yeah.
replicate class of 92. It's just one of those special moments in football.
Yeah.
Every team has it. A team that goes on to win all the trophies, that team has
Yeah.
something special that they will just not replicate. You know what I
True.
mean? So it was the
True.
same thing with the class of 92, a mix of
Mm.
different youngsters who brought different qualities. And what's special is that they came through the ranks together. So that was
Yeah.
something that was, beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, the
Yeah.
standout thing about David Beckham was his ability to find his men.
Yeah.
He was the the
Sniper.
crossing king. He was the sniper, the king master, the pin
Yeah.
guru, whatever you want to call him. He was
Yeah.
right up there with the
Yeah.
very best.
Yeah.
And what what's wild, because with everything that was going on with David Beckham, even behind closed doors, there were things, spats, with the manager,
Yeah.
and they brought reference to the when he got benched against Real Madrid,
Yeah.
and he was like, upset, and then he came on and he had a point to prove, and he fucking did his
Yeah.
thing, scored goals, like just one of those. He had that thing and that match, him changing the game a little bit, and then him saying that Zizou came to him and was like, "Yo, you come to Real Madrid." That was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like that was something that was showing him that, man, you are good. This
Yeah.
is what I was trying to get to him, because Zizou, I mean, he was like, Zizou come to me and says, "You come to Real
Exactly.
Madrid." It means that
Yeah.
they appreciated the quality that he brought, and that is
Yeah.
exactly what he did.
Yeah.
Nothing too apart from being a crossing king. People tend to forget that Beckham was a wicked midfielder. He was a proper cam, a proper one of
Yeah.
those people that you just needed in your midfield. People
Yeah.
don't know this. They just see him
Bruh.
as a winger. Nah, he wasn't. He was a winger. Started off as a winger, yes, but then he was
Mm.
now becoming a midfield. You see
Mm.
those highlights of those games, how he was playing. Bruh, box to box esque
Mm-hmm.
madness.
Mm-hmm.
Man, David Beckham. Anyway, but yeah, man,
Yeah.
his ability to remain consistent was really something that stood out with David Beckham.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even through his ups and downs, he was always he oh like he, no matter what was going on around him, he just always managed to just say, "Listen, football is the
Yeah.
thing that comes first." He just goes back to his football, and that was something
Yeah.
that I really, really appreciated about him, because
Yeah.
it was never about anything else, just about football.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
true. And I think also one thing I took away from, the early days at United is that he was a very important player to the squad. He was a game changer. The way
yeah,
you talk about the likes of Bruno Fernandes, when he's not playing, we start to panic.
yeah,
David Beckham was that player for the team where if he was brought on at any stage of the game, then the odds of you winning that game suddenly increased, because of
exactly.
his hard work on the pitch, his box to box play, his set pieces, his free kicks, you know what I'm saying? The corners, the ability to find a man in the box, he was that differential player. He's that
Mm,
player when you need to get something done, you rely on backs.
mm,
And because of that reliability, obviously it went beyond the club. It now spread nationally, and he had a
yeah,
lot of eyes on him. And like you said, he played in that Champions League against the Galacticos, and they're like, we need you to come and be a part of this god football team. You know what I mean? Because you're on god level. You understand what I'm
bruh,
saying? you know
hey,
so obviously, with that being said, World Cup comes around, and
mm-hmm.
he's being noticed by the manager at that time, who was also one of England's greatest players back in the day.
Yeah,
So he gets a call up to the national team, and now this is his opportunity to not only show he can do it at club level, but at international level. And we all know a lot of players want to play for their national team. They want to represent their team at the biggest stage in the world, which is the World Cup. But obviously, you need to go through qualifiers and all of this and all of that. But ultimately,
mm,
You want that opportunity to be called up by your national team. So yeah, so walk us through those moments, everything that happened, that led up to him getting called into the World Cup squad, and then obviously what transpired, during the games, and then yeah, man, take it away, fam.
So obviously, in football nowadays, even I mean back then and nowadays, the only way you can represent your country is if you're playing your club football at the highest level.
Yeah,
That is like the number one requirement, and you have to be consistent. And
yeah,
it just coincided with David Beck. I mean, for David Beckham, it just made sense because he was sort of ascending, so it made sense for him to play.
mm,
It made sense for him to represent the country because everybody saw what he was doing. It
yeah,
wasn't. Uh, it wasn't something that you could just ignore. It was
yeah,
almost a thing of like, if he's not in the national team, then there's something wrong. Why are you guys not
yeah,
picking this guy? Because you want to
yeah,
pick the best. So it just made sense. So he
yeah,
goes to this World Cup, plays, he's doing well, and then it comes, they're playing against Argentina. And this is one of those things where I guess if we talk about it, we're gonna stretch it, but I'm just gonna
yeah,
dive
yeah,
really
yeah.
quick into it.
No worries. Yeah.
And people need me when I watched that documentary, I was just like, I understood everything that David Beckham was going through. I really did.
Mm,
And actually, here's another funny thing that people don't know. Um, Daddy Bex has got a little dark side to him. In
mm,
the Premier League back in the days, if he's kicked and the referee doesn't pay attention or make the card, like he will make sure that the other guy feels it. Like he will, there was that culture of biting back. It
yeah,
was in a
yeah, yeah,
professional way. It's like, oh, you kicked me, all
yeah,
right, cool.
yeah.
Second round,
That
I'm coming back.
that
So
unspoken law, you know.
yeah, you get me, I
Mm,
have to get you back. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So he's famous. Like he had his moments. It's just because he's Beckham, people have forgotten about him. I haven't. So
yeah,
he's had that little streak, but that is very normal because it's sort of like a competitive nature. You
yeah,
feel like you've been um the call has gone against you, and you react out of passion, out of emotion. These things happen, and
yeah.
unfortunately for him, with that Diego Simeone situation,
Mm,
man, you know when I saw it, first of all, I was
yeah,
like, really, like this
yeah,
is going to be like he's getting a red card for this, and
yeah,
then at
yeah,
the same time it's like Simeone at the same time, the guy that he offended,
yeah,
he exaggerated it, but at the same,
yeah.
he was so playful.
He
That was his nature.
overreacted.
Yeah, like that. There are players that are shit houses. You remember the guy
Yeah.
who Zidane head butted? That
Yes.
motherfucker
Yes.
was he was a shit houser. That's the reason why
Yeah.
he got head
Yeah.
butted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are players that will get on your nerves on the pitch.
Yeah.
That culture existed back then. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
there. We called it
Not so
chirping.
much.
Where
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
call it chirping, where you try to get into the mind of the other player.
Yeah. Yeah.
That thing. So everything happened like that with David Beckham. He reacted.
Mm,
Unfortunately for us, the referee was weak. That's how I saw
yeah.
that. The referee
Yeah.
was weak, sent him off. Bro, instead of everybody having his back, like that was a mistake. Yes, they lost, but they
Mm,
lost because those guys were poor. You can't tell me
yeah.
just because David Beckham, man, the mentality was very questionable back in the days also.
Yeah.
Because yeah, yet he gets a red card. That drops your concentration to go and kick those pathetic penalties.
Mm, mm.
Bro. And the goalkeeper, that goalkeeper too. Well, man, it was just a combination of nonsense.
Yeah.
It was just a combination of nonsense. And Bex took the full blunt of it. And in that
Yeah.
documentary, you see how intense it was.
Yeah.
You know, here's this might be very controversial to hear, right? But I don't want people to look too much into it, right?
Yeah.
Um, Greenwood and his situation with us at United currently, the whole mixed mixed feelings with him coming back. The female
Mm,
um, the the female gender are saying, "Nah, we don't want him back." Blah 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 blah. All that stuff, right?
yeah.
When he did the thing, the scrutiny that he had was just I mean, okay, mild, but then people are not having it. It's like cancel culture. Get him out.
Yeah.
We want nothing to do with him. No remorse. Blah blah blah. It's
Yeah.
similar in the sense with David Beckham, in the sense that people were just not having it. They were blaming him for the loss, like the whole country's loss. That
Yeah.
was even bigger. Now,
Yeah.
when I say comparing to Greenwood, I'm saying like there's some sort of redemption story. Now, it could be different in the sense that for Greenwood, even him coming back and doing something as beautiful as David
Yeah.
Beckham, it might not work
Yeah.
because it's in it. What he did was out of football, and what
Yeah.
Beckham did was in football, and his redemption was in football. But then
Yeah.
that scrutiny, that thing that hung around him, in a very similar way, I would compare it to that very thinly.
Yeah.
He takes the full blunt of it. Instead of the manager having his back, throws him under the bus.
Yeah.
D, can we talk about that?
Now, let me give for a lot of the audience out there, maybe who have watched the documentary and missed this part, or
Yeah.
you haven't watched the documentary and you're getting this information based off what we're saying, just to give you guys more context to this story. So, the reason why um, David Beckham was hit back with so much scrutiny is because these two countries, apart from the competitiveness on
Ooh.
the football field, they had history, they had cultural history between them,
War.
with England going to war with Argentina. So
Yes.
this match represented something bigger than
Yes.
football, you
Yes.
know, and for them, the loss, like it felt like a loss on the battlefield.
Battlefield. Yeah.
It was sort of like the equivalent to that, and that's why that loss carried so much weight, because it feels like their knight in shining armor went out there and lost the war for the country. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
beyond football. And
Beautiful.
that's why
Beautiful.
it had
Beautiful,
so
Pastor D.
and that's why it had so much backlash, more so than it should have had in the first place, to begin with. So very unfortunate, incident that happened, in and around that situation. But with that being said, um, the backlash was immense. I really commend how he was able. Obviously, in the documentary, it does show how difficult it was for him to cope and deal with the situation. But I really commend how he sort of stuck through it, went through it, and that was, you know, that all happened because there was a solid foundation with his what you call this, with the dressing room. You know what I mean? With these players, with his manager at the club. They spoke about how when he returned back to the club, Fergie put an arm around his shoulder and say, "We got you." You know what I mean? I'm going to block the press from coming from here. We're gonna be in closed settings so the media doesn't get to you. You know what I mean? He had sort of like this control, you know, on how he made sure that his players got protected from the media. Whether it was just David Beckham with his thing, but any other player, he made sure that when they were at the club, they felt safe. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
everything was controlled, and there was just this culture of everything that happens in the dressing room stays in the dressing room. That
Yeah.
type of culture, and that way they're able to give themselves that self support when people are going through these troubled times, because nowadays there's a lot of aid and support and, mental health. I mean, just, I think 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, we had the National World's Mental Health Day. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I don't know if that was a national thing or an international thing, but we had our, what
I
you
think it
call
was
it,
an
mental
international thing.
international. We had international, that didn't exist back then. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Back then, if you were a man, you had to swallow your emotions and keep it moving. So there was not a lot of support at that time to deal with these type of emotions that players were going through. So it's really good that they had this system within the football club that they could lean, you know what I mean, on others' shoulders to get them through these troubled times. And man, I'm just very disappointed watching that documentary how, the England manager just threw David Beckham under the bus and,
Bro,
sort of put the
why?
whole thing on his shoulders and said, look, this thing has all boiled down to David Beckham. That's why we got,
Bro.
knocked out of this competition, which, man,
And I
it's tough.
think the manager ultimately was the one that sentenced Beckham to that
Yeah,
condemnation from the entire world because they needed a scapegoat. They
yeah,
needed. Why
yeah,
not the England team lost? Because what happened to there's no I in the word team? What happened to
exactly,
that? We win
exactly.
together, we lose together. But
Yeah,
then Beckham does that, gets a red card. Obviously, he goes out, but then he didn't kick the penalties. I mean,
yeah,
I get it, but nah,
yeah,
that was just not right.
yeah,
And I mean, I don't know how that plays out in these days, because it's funny when you think about it. Because I don't know if you can compare it to how Eric Ten Hag ousted um, Jadon Sancho
yeah,
when they asked him about why he wasn't included in the lineup against Arsenal, and he just
yeah,
simply said he just didn't meet the requirements. Now I don't
yeah,
know if that qualifies as him throwing him under the bus, because because we did lose the game. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I don't know if that qualifies. But then Glenn Hoddle,
yeah,
that was, whew,
yeah.
man. I don't know that
Yeah, I
was
think that was a cheap shot because when you look at it, there were senior players in that squad.
yeah.
David Beckham, this young, up and coming player, who was possibly going to be a huge part moving forward in that England squad, for the future. And he should have thought for the future, not only in that moment, that needed words of encouragement and look, yes, you've made this mistake, but things get better from here. You understand? You know what, Neben? I would
Yeah.
compare it more to the situation that happened with Rashford, Jadon Sancho, and Saka in the World Cup where they went and missed their penalties. I think that's more
Yes.
of a better comparison,
Yes.
because
Yes.
these are young players, and obviously, um, they're still learning. You know what I mean? They're still developing in their careers, and you do not want to go and you know what I'm saying. Yes, it was a big mistake, but these are your future leaders. These are your future players. If you're gonna break down your best players now, what's gonna be left for the future? If these
Mm,
other players are seeing this happening, what motivation are they going to have to go and represent their country, knowing that if they're the ones who slip up, the manager is going to put the blame on them? You check what I'm
mm,
saying? So Gareth Southgate didn't go and ultimately put the blame on them. He just said, look, this is football, these things happen. Don't go out there and criticize these boys like that. That's something that Glenn Huddleston should have done, as opposed to saying, I don't believe you could use something stupid, even going as far as using those type of words. You know what I mean?
mm.
Like that
Yeah,
was something
yeah.
stupid that he did. He should know better. How can he know better if this is his first time representing the what you call this, the country at an international stage? So yeah, man, I think that was just a very poor call from the manager, and yeah, man, ultimately it led to a whole era of David Beckham being shunned, in the British light. You understand? I mean, he was being ridiculed left, right, and center, which did not help his career at all. But Bex is back. He stuck his head down, and he went and won back some of the support, especially from the United fan base. Because his own fans were booing him. You know what I mean? Because first and foremost, the England fans beyond anything else. But eventually, through his hard work on the pitch and going to prove to them that, look, I made that mistake, but I'm going to make up for it. I'm going to become a better player, sticking his head down, you know being disciplined on the pitch and going and doing his thing. Because Ferguson could have also taken a different route and said, look, you flopped at the World Cup, I'm going to bench you, you come back or whatever. He stuck with his
Exactly.
guns. He understood that these things can happen, but he knew that David Beckham was definitely a player to watch out for. So yeah, so moving on from that, so obviously, um, it now comes time to that famous incident that transpired. And here's something that I learned a lot about, because I always thought the boot incident was an intentional thing, just to find out that it was actually down to a mistake and that he actually came out and apologized about it. But yeah, man, take it from here and explain us what transpired during those moments, and then what did it ultimately lead to in the end.
Bro, do you I don't I know you don't believe me,
Yeah.
but sometimes I can't explain the things that happen in the
Mm.
football in the football fraternity. This is a
Yeah.
closed knit society. The things that happen
Yeah.
there, you can't explain them. David
Yeah.
Beckham and Sir Alex Ferguson had this father son relationship right
Yeah.
from the beginning. Sir Alex
Mm.
Ferguson took care of this boy from the from the early age, from when the time he signed with Manchester when he was 16. So he was
Yeah.
always, and I mean, just like every other relationship, father-son relationship, there are
Yeah.
times as the youngster is going, they say that you can't have two bulls in a crawl. These
Mm.
things bound to happen. And because they shared that nature, like there was, I would say to a certain extent, it was also personal because
Mm.
Sir Alex Ferguson was in his life. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And just as much as he took him to games, made him sit, come into the first team dressing room, which was something that players from the academy never did. It was something that was never done. But he was
Yeah.
seen as a special, like he was like he was treated like a prince. This incident happens where the gaffer is annoyed because I think they played badly during the game, right? I think that the incident happened when they go into the locker room and things were just not working out in the game.
Yeah, I think it was wasn't it the cap situation? Wasn't it? Didn't happen because he walked in with the cap, and then Fergie was like, remove the cap or something like that, and then he bit back
Oh,
and is like, "Sat, I'm not removing this cap." Then out of frustration, that's when when Ferguson was throwing a tantrum. That's when by
he
accident he flicked the boot, and then
he, he just kicked out. He
yeah,
just
yeah,
kicked out,
it just
and
kick out. Yeah,
yeah, and that boot just flew
yeah.
pa. No, I can't. Honestly, like when I
That's
saw
fast.
that, even back in the days. I mean, okay, back in the days, I was worried because I was like,
Yeah,
oh shit, this means that there's going to be a problem, and Beckham might leave, and Sir Alex Ferguson
yeah,
is so strong. He can bounce. So we were
yeah,
worried. Just
mm,
watching the comment, like the documentary, and finding out how it happened.
yeah,
Me, I burst out laughing because I was like, nah, you can't tell me
yeah,
this thing can only happen in football, like in the
yeah,
locker room, like one of those
yeah, yeah.
weird moments.
True.
But yeah, they had that father son relationship, and the good thing about it is that, in as much as Sir Alex Ferguson was a drill master, Beckham
Yeah,
enjoyed that stuff because that's how he grew up.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
funny. You grow up a certain way,
mm,
tough love, no, no, and then
yeah,
that's how you live your life, and nothing in the
yeah,
world brings you down. But then you
yeah,
live in a different way where people are coddling you and telling you all sweet things. You are
yeah,
nice, you are special, you are
yeah,
kind, you are
yeah,
blah blah blah. All that thing that they do, and
yeah,
child can't deal with somebody telling them that the pop. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, yo, you're not good enough. And then the kid
yeah,
is broken down, and then his self-esteem is broken and can't play football because you've told him that he ain't shit when he
yeah,
ain't shit.
yeah,
So it was just something nice to see. But again, this comes to, because we're building upon something here, because Beckham
yeah,
at this moment is hated by everybody. Even
yeah,
his own fellow Manchester United fans are booing him. They're
yeah,
booing him to a point where he had, like, until things started clicking, when he started scoring goals, the backs was back, free kicks,
yeah,
pinging assists. Then people are like, all right, cool, cool, cool. Then boom, all
yeah,
right, cool, all right, all right. Then they started getting into the groove.
yeah,
And then, D, if this does not emphasize my point that the football gods exist, or that football is a mystical sport, I don't know
yeah,
how else I can tell you. Because in David Beckham's life, and we'll get into that, there are two moments, bro, that you can't explain. Like,
yeah,
if I was to sit my child down and tell my child that, yo, you see this game, this team here dominated this game. They
yeah,
won 1-0 up until 90 minutes, and they hit the post twice. They were
yeah,
the most likely team to win
yeah,
the game. And if I tell them that, but they lost, and the kid will be like, say, what now? Like, they lost. How? They lost in 2 minutes. They scored.
Yeah.
This other team scored 2. How?
Yeah.
And the way I will explain to my child is, so here's the story, my child. Football is a mystical sport. I'll start like that. Like How I Met Your Mother. Like How I Met Your. Yeah. And I'll tell them, bro, David Beckham is shunned by everybody. The setting couldn't have been more sweet.
Yeah.
He's on form. He's banging free kicks. He's banging assists. He's banging goals. From the World Cup qualifier against Greece. And we're talking about skinhead David Beckham, because skinhead David Beckham was a beast.
Yeah.
Skinhead, when he shaved it all off just to even piss off the manager. It was beautiful. Man, I loved what Beckham was doing. I did.
Yeah.
Bro, the setting. England needed to draw or win, right?
Yeah.
Qualify. All right. Old Trafford. The other side, where is he going? Stratford End. Am I wrong? Like,
yeah.
How does it get better than this? If he scores this goal, which, mind you, it's not a tap in, it is a freaking free kick.
And that time he's named captain of England, yeah?
And he's named captain of England.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he has more responsibility. He's got a pep in his step. Just, the setting is set. The stage is set. Old Trafford, Stratford End. I don't know what minutes it was. David Beckham could raise the roof with a goal. Boom. I don't believe it. David Beckham takes England to the World Cup finals. Oh my God. That moment, bro, that moment gave me goosebumps. I had goosebumps throughout the whole series. Like the whole
true.
series. I had goosebumps. Bro, when that free kick went in and you saw how Old Trafford erupted, dog.
Yeah.
Bro, redemption. Everybody's buzzing. He goes to the World Cup. He does his thing. And guess what? Remind me if I'm wrong, or correct me, because they ended up meeting Argentina. Now, I'm not sure if it was during the Euros or it was World Cup qualifiers, or was it a friendly? I forgot. It just slipped my mind. Because
I also forgotten as well, yeah.
But then he kind of like got redemption story. Like, he ended up beating Argentina as captain of England, and it was a moment, or like sort of like to close the chapter that was hanging around him with that red card that he had against Simeone. And lo and behold,
no. It was Champions
They
League.
were playing Champions League.
Inter Milan United, yes. I just remember, when you were talking, I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? Because I vividly remember it was like, I'm pretty sure it was in a United shirt when he got his redemption. You know what I mean?
Was it a United shirt, or was it with AC when he was with AC? Was it with
It was with you. It should have been with United.
Man, it just slipped my mind because
it also slipped my mind. It does also slip my mind. For all we know, could have been with Madrid. But anyway,
a lot of his chapters were closed. You know what I mean? That's all I'm just. Yeah, man. So
Point. Yeah. Now we get you, man. So like we said, obviously he went to the World Cup, had a redemption story. Came back, to the club just to find that the club wants to move David Beckham along.
Bro.
And this came to a surprise to him because he did not want to leave Manchester United. There's a moment where Gary Neville spoke of, he had this thing of they're going to stay at United forever. You know what I mean? They're going to play for United forever. No one had this thing of we're going to leave United and move to a different club or whatever. It's United for life. And then this news comes through that, he needs to be moved along. You check. Yeah. So, man, take us from there.
So, hey man, I think at that point things had boiled down to a lot of things that were happening, because outside of football, David Beckham was participating in activities that the gaffer was just not having. You know, the gaffer was a drill master. He just felt like if you try to add anything else to football, it will distract you. It
Yeah,
will keep you away from your responsibilities and all that stuff. And I think all of those things boil down to all of that. And you know our manager, how he is. The
yeah,
moment he feels like he has lost control of the situation,
yeah,
and he feels like he's lost control of the player, and the player is just going to cause a lot of mischief, he would
yeah,
rather, and that's his mantra. Like,
yeah.
even he's even teaching that even now. I think he did that at a Harvard business school thing
Okay.
I once watched, where
Yeah,
he said that if there's a player that is talking back or being disruptive in the squad, get
yeah,
rid of him.
mm,
Get rid of him,
yeah,
because he's undermining authority. And just that moment you undermine authority, in as
yeah,
much as it, maybe sometimes you think that it won't affect the other players, but they
yeah,
have seen it, they've witnessed it, and it
yeah,
might play a role in them depending
yeah,
on their character, blah blah blah.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
guess it had boiled down to this. The tricky thing is, obviously at this time he was in love with Real Madrid, and it's something that we've noticed even now with, I think, with Scott McTominay, when he was kind of offered to, I think, West Ham, and he was like, "Nah, I think I can fight fight for my position in the squad."
yeah,
So there's that thing where he's like, he rejects a deal and wants to go somewhere else. I think other clubs have also experienced that, where
yeah,
players, like, they want to sell you to a club, and
yeah,
you're like, "Nah, I don't want to go. I don't want to
yeah,
go to that club. So rather send
yeah,
me to this club."
yeah,
And I remember back in the days, receiving these newspapers as a kid, and making these collages. And I
yeah,
remember they were saying that he was going to Real Madrid. And obviously
yeah,
we kind of like had an idea about that.
yeah,
But then in this documentary, something very interesting popped up,
mm,
that Manchester United were actually willing to sell him to Barcelona,
mm, mm,
which is wild.
yeah,
It's wild to think about it, because hence, I am also a Barcelona fan.
yeah,
It's like you've actually I think you and a couple of other people were asked me, how is it that you like Barcelona instead of Real Madrid when
yeah,
Beckham went to Real
yeah.
Madrid?
These,
And I've
these,
also asked myself that question,
yeah,
and yeah, like, that's a bizarre one, but one day I'll figure it out.
yeah,
Anyway, in the show, they show that United were just willing to sell him,
mm,
you know. And the funny thing is, it showed how unaware he was of the club wanting to get rid of him, because he just saw all these things in the news, and
yeah,
nobody was coming out there and telling him. And then he ended up coming and saying, "Listen, okay, if you guys want to sell me, rather sell me to the club that I want to go to."
yeah,
And it was the Galactico one, and
mm,
man, ooh, ooh, the
yeah.
rest is history. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, most def. So, yeah, of course, at that time he was being pushed out of the club. What we thought back then was that he decided to leave. Of course, we never used to get as much. Obviously at that time, social media wasn't a thing. You know,
Yeah,
if I remember at that time, I think though platforms like High Five and MySpace and those type of applications or whatever never yet penetrated the African market. Yes, some people were using them and whatever, but it wasn't really a huge thing. And at that time, it was before smartphones, before Facebook, before anyone even thought of having this like interaction, with the online media space and whatever. The media controlled so much of what we ultimately received as people.
yeah.
Whether that's
You would
sports,
say it's propaganda almost.
exactly. You check what I'm saying. So those no other source of information we could get this information from. So we relied so much on the media. So whatever they put out there was the only type of information that we had to go off. And so we sort of just believed what was being fed to us. And if I'm not mistaken, at that time, what we knew or what was being given to us is that Beckham wanted to leave. He wanted to go
Yeah,
to Real
because of
Madrid
the
because of
boot
the boot
situation, right?
incident. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So they
yeah,
tied those two together, and that's what we have always believed, has been
yeah.
the reason up until this date of actually being educated. Because yes, you could have gone and watched maybe documentaries or whatever. I'm sure it has been covered before. The real
Yeah.
reason, but no one really goes and does this type of research, unless otherwise. But this documentary is something that was a big acquisition that a lot of people could have easy access to, being put on a big media platform like Netflix. So it was easy for us to go out there and watch and get that information. But anyway, so just not make things long. He leaves he leaves Manchester United. Sorry, he goes into that Galactico team, and yeah, he starts off his career there. At that time, I think he was the most expensive player on the transfer market, if I'm not mistaken, and the most
Yeah.
expensive player that Real Madrid had purchased at that point. So obviously, big name, big conglomerate. The news was around him. He spoke about those early days when it was a bit weird because he never spoke the language, and he spoke about how Roberto Carlos, came to him and they formed this like friendship, and people were like wondering in that room, but how are these people getting along? Because the one speaks English, the one speaks Portuguese, how is
Yeah.
it working? You know what I'm saying? So, and then you had Zizou with the French, he spoke about like, it was like a mixture of different cultures,
Yeah.
and so because of that language barrier, it was really hard for him to like fit into things. But in that documentary, another thing that I was shocked about is that he actually went ahead and learned Spanish, and it actually just reminds me of Gareth Bale. How he used to like say, "No, I'm alone. I don't speak Spanish. No one is." You understand what I mean? He kept to himself, and you know what?
The
I
funny
can.
thing, he speaks Spanish now. He does. I don't get it. He
Yeah,
speaks
but
Spanish.
anyway, that was always his thing. But anyway, so yeah, man, he gets into the squad. First couple of games, the funny thing is when he was talking about penetrating into that team, was like, okay, kind of this position that I play and Figo plays in it. You know what I
Hey,
mean? Am I benching
hey.
Figo now? Like it was like that, you know, uncertainty around that position. So obviously, they needed to like create a system where all of them could like, flourish under that system. But yeah, take it from there, my guy. Those early,
You know,
stages of him being at Real Madrid and what transpired.
D. You know
Yeah,
what's beautiful about football life in general
yeah,
is that we are humans.
yeah,
This guy looked at these players. He knew who they were.
yeah,
Ronaldo, phenomenal from Brazil.
yes,
He knew who he was. Zizou, France. He knew
yeah,
who he was. That time Zizou had already a World Cup.
yeah,
Those fellas had World Cups,
yeah,
Euros.
yeah, yeah.
They were like elite.
They were elites. Oh, I
No,
remember when he spoke
no,
about that as well. When he's so
no.
in training,
Yeah,
the part where he says he goes to tackle Ronaldo,
Ronaldo.
and he just stops and watches him slide by, and he's like, "Oh shit, yeah, I need to
Bro,
up my game."
I, I loved that because just
Oh
like us,
man,
he was like he was in the presence of greatness.
yeah,
You understand?
yeah,
And already, there's this thing of imposter syndrome where we think that we don't deserve to be where
yeah,
we are,
true, yeah,
and maybe he felt like that, but he actually truly deserved to be there.
yes,
However, I do want to point out what the documentaries showed. Like David Beckham was almost like a Mason Mount kind of purchase for Real Madrid at the time.
yeah, yeah,
He didn't need Beckham because
yes.
Figo, Figo at the time, I think Figo had already won the Ballon d'Or. Man, let's say
Yeah,
Figo was God in
the
Portugal that time.
a reason why that team was called the Galactico. When you look at that
Bro,
bench and you just see Ronaldo, Robinho, Zico, Roberto, Figo, just
yo.
just last number after last number after last number.
Dude, how I didn't support that team is wicked to me. I
Yeah,
don't know why. I don't.
yeah,
I'm sitting. I should be a Madrista because
yeah,
it's funny. I love the Real Madrid anthem. I like the jersey. I like the stadium. They're sponsored by Adidas. I love
no
Real Madrid. I
Adidas.
just support. Yeah, I just support.
Mm,
But it's wild. So
yeah,
this guy was looking at like, listen, how are we going to play? Because you guys have purchased me. My position is
yeah,
currently being occupied by the number one player in his position in the world.
Yeah.
Figo was number one in that position in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Who
True.
else? So, and even the Real Madrid players, they even said it. They were like, Beckham,
Mm.
good signing, but not necessarily. Not
Yeah. Yeah.
necessarily.
Mm. Mm.
It's like, there's gonna be a clash, and there might be problems.
Yeah.
I've forgotten. Did they manage to resolve that situation? Because I think they tried to find a position for Bex inside the
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
and I forgot. Things were not working out for some time, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Things
did
are not
they
working
immediately
out.
start clicking?
Things are not working out in the beginning, and then somehow he managed to find his feet, and then he started to
Yeah,
have an impact in the team, because when he did start playing, it wasn't like off the bat. He was.
yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't a case of um, he wasn't playing because how to put it, because your surplus requirements. He wasn't playing because he wasn't playing well, and then that's when he, like, something kicked in and he started playing well, and when he had his first goal, who assisted him? Again. He spoke about that time when, because he had that disconnect with the players off the pitch, it was difficult for him to have that connection on the pitch.
on the
So
pitch. Yeah,
that's when he formed that partner, that friendship with Roberto Carlos.
Roberto Carlos. Yeah,
And then getting, like, in tune with the team in the what you call it, cafeteria and stuff, and you know what I mean. He felt more, with the team in training than ever before. And then he
yeah,
carried on that chemistry from off the pitch to on the pitch.
yeah,
And I think it was Roberto Carlos who gave him his first goal. Then that's
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
mistaken. So yeah, and then that's how basically his Real Madrid, like, story and journey began. Of him just, like, becoming
Yeah.
the Galactico player that they signed him to be.
Mm.
Mm.
And it's very interesting to note that he ended up being amongst the Galacticos, he was the last to be brought in, and
Yeah,
he ended up being the last to leave
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
he stayed in Real Madrid right up until he was the only Galactico left.
Left. Yes.
And I think that was his last season, and he left the season with a bang. But
Yeah.
we need to go back into
Yeah.
another mountain that he had to climb, because you look at this docu-series,
Yeah.
and you see that Bex always had to deal with something.
Yeah.
He always had to prove himself. He always had to, like, show that he's this player. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of like these elite players, Ronaldo, Messi,
Mm.
Zizou, Ronaldo, phenomenal, all these elite players that we know of, top tier players. I
Yeah.
think they've all gone through that thing where, like, in one way or another, they've been criticized, and then
Yeah.
they look at the world and they're like, listen, what more do
Do
you
you
want?
want? Yes.
Are you not entertained? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, are you not entertained? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And he always found himself having to push, and being scouted as a Galactico, and then
Yeah.
having to go through the Capello era.
Yeah.
This manager that comes to Real Madrid, and ultimately, you could say Beck saved that guy's job. I think he
He
got
did.
sacked ultimately, but
Yeah.
I think he softened the blow
Yeah. Yeah.
for David Beckham. Beckham softened his blow a little bit.
For
I think,
Fabio. Yeah.
because here's the situation where I think Fabio Capello thought, was it David Beckham had spoken to the team LA Galaxy. He had that they'd had lunch or something like that.
Yes.
And now here's the thing that I'm a little bit confused. I don't know if his contract was ending and they were kind of like in negotiation with Real Madrid, and he wasn't sure, and it was because of family issues, because his wife wasn't happy in Spain, because also we need to understand that his personal life was also being affected.
Yes.
His wife wasn't happy, and ultimately some of the decisions that he made
Yeah.
were obviously him and his wife. They were personal decisions.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if Capello had taken him out of the team because of that conversation that he had. Just correct me there, D.
So basically, when Capello came in,
Yeah.
he didn't start Beckham because he came through with a different system and a different way in which he wanted to play, and Beckham didn't really fit into that system, right? So apart from everything else that was going on, that was, the main thing where he just didn't seem like in his system of play. So then what happened from there is coincidentally at that time, the president or manager or whatever of LA Galaxy happened to be in town. And, obviously he's following world football, and Beckham is one of the biggest names in football. How can you not know about David Beckham? And obviously he's following the football, and he's like, this guy's on the bench. You know what I mean? This of his quality should not be on the bench. So that was like he's in to like David Beckham. That's how he organized the lunch and sort of like played on his pain points to say, look, this manager's not prioritizing you. I'm sure your contract's coming to an end. They didn't really stipulate about, negotiations or if they're going to continue. But obviously just about like, look, your contract's coming to an end. This LA Galaxy over here, it's an untapped market. You know what I mean? You can go and make football big in America because you're a big household name. Think about it. You know what I mean? Come through. At that time, David Beckham was like, look, it's nice to hear about you guys want me and stuff like that, but I want to play for Real Madrid. Like, I've got no intentions to leave. You know what I mean? So, Hade, but thank you. You know what I mean?
Loyalty, my man.
Loyalty.
Beckham.
The loyalty ran deep. So, of course, the media is, they just spin things however they want to spin things. Story came out, obviously, that he was with the president or whatever of LA Galaxy. Capello caught wind of the news, and Capello, without even having a conversation with Beckham, automatically just assumed that he wants to leave the club. And then that's when Fabio Capello said, come into my office and said, look, I heard you want to leave the club. With that being said, you're never going to play for this team again. So you're going to see out your contract until it expires. And that was it. He never gave Beckham a chance to explain himself. He just said, that's it. And then, of course, Beckham's like, okay, I'm still here at the club. I still need to train. Comes into training, joins the first team. Fabio Capello says, you're not going to train with the first team. You're going to train by yourself. Go there by the byline, do laps, and you know what I mean? Do your own training, but whatever you're going to do is not going to be part of this team. So, yeah, you can take it from there.
Man, this is a bit of the docu-series that just sent chills down my spine. I got the biggest goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because taking Beckham out of the thing was ultimately Capello's almost downfall because Real Madrid. Now, I don't know if that played into the players of Real Madrid because it's like, man, you are ousting this player for no reason. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And this player is here coming to training. So Beckham in this situation, like we've noticed, I don't know if it has happened. I don't even want to compare it to Sancho because we don't know what Sancho is doing in his off when he's training by himself. I'm assuming he is training, but I'm not trying to compare the two. And I don't know if there's been another incident like this where a player has been ousted from the first team for no particular reason, and then he continues to show professionalism and class, and just putting in the graft. And that's what David Beckham did.
Yeah.
His wife, I'm sure, I think in the docu-series, they're like, why are you doing this? Why?
Yeah.
These guys don't love you. Let's go. I'm getting pelters here by the media because they're saying that I don't love the culture. I'm not happy. You don't seem happy. This coach doesn't want you. Let's go.
Yeah.
Beckham is like, nah. I'm good. I'll just keep on training. And he kept on training and doing the same thing every day. He clocked into work, continued doing his thing. Continued his training, perfecting his passing.
Yeah.
Man, Bex is just on levels. Then I don't know what happens, and then Capello, I think it was the players.
So what happened was so obviously things are not going well at Real Madrid. They started losing game after game. They dropped their position top of the table. It was coming towards the end of the season. They needed to start getting some points. And then it was Roberto Carlos, his boy, went and spoke to Capello and said, look, man, I understand your beef with the boy, but we need him. We need him. You know what I mean? Just patch things up and let boy come back and play for us. You know what I mean? We really need him back in the team. So, yeah, I can continue from there. I just wanted to, patch up that little section.
Man, thank you for dropping that, because
Yeah.
I love, man, football players. As much as we look at them as gods, man, they're just sweet people.
Yeah.
I looked at Roberto Carlos, and that gesture was just amazing. It was, it's like, coach, like, hey, listen, I get it. I get it. And you're the boss. You are the boss. I'm not even going to try and step on your toes because it might cost me my position.
Yeah.
But look, we're losing.
Yeah.
Like, what else? What do you have to lose in bringing this guy?
Exactly.
What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
The guy's still fit. He's not injured.
He's still training.
We see him training every day.
Every
day.
Like,
it's not like we are unaware of him. He's not here. Where you're questioning, is he training? Is he still fit? No, we see him every day. He's here. Put him in, coach.
Yeah.
All right, the coach. Then I guess that moved him, puts Beckham inside, and the rest is history. And when I say the rest is history, I'm talking ping after ping, after goal, after free kick, after a madness.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Real Madrid win La Liga, bro.
Oh man. Oh.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Man, when I tell you, my heart was pounding the whole docu-series. I'm like, I started comparing Beckham to like Michael Jordan and all these elite players with their stories.
Yeah.
I'm sure that quarterbacks with stories, like what's his name? This famous guy. I was reading about him today. The guy even came to Old Trafford. The guy, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, yes.
They all have their stories, and just like, bro, I put him in that level because everything that he did was just all football.
Yeah.
All the fighting and the grafting, it all happened and unfolded in football.
Yeah.
And it was just something beautiful to see.
Yeah.
And I was proud as a Beckham loyal fan to see all this unfold. And I was like, I was even, it's weird. I felt like I won. I felt like, I did good following such a great man. I did good choosing an idol like David Beckham. But man, he wins the La Liga, and you know what? The rest is history. I think after that, that's when I don't think he continued because I think he picked up an injury. He didn't finish. And then ultimately he decides, me and my family were gonna go to America, which is also another funny story.
So just to fill in the gap before we segue to the to when he moved to LA Galaxy. So of course, he finishes off the season. In the final stages of the match, he gets injured, he gets pulled off the match, he's unable to finish the match. But at the end of the day, he did his job, right? Getting the team back to the top of the league and ultimately going and winning the league title. So of course now the question now comes, because his boy comes to him and he says, "Look, man, I know that the manager said you're not going to play for the team anymore and your contract is run down. Like, is it possible for you to stay with Real Madrid and at least extend your contract, for another 3 or 4 seasons? Is it possible that you can stay with us in the long run?" And Bex, of course, looks to himself and says, "You know what? Unfortunately, I remember this manager put me on the bench and I was not happy about that, and he exiled him from the team." So is sort of, you can say, out of spite, he decided that I'm rather just gonna move along. I'm gonna go to LA Galaxy. This club showed interest in me. You guys benched me for no particular reason. You know what I mean? I haven't forgotten about that. You know what I'm saying? I haven't forgot about that. You guys I don't think I forgot about that.
Hilarious.
Don't think I forgot about that. And then off to LA Galaxy he goes. Of course, again, at that time,
Farmers League.
What was so funny was, if there's ever a true definition of Farmers League, summed it up so perfectly. And you know what was so disappointing? When they're talking about the caliber of players, like, these guys play football part-time. These guys, their spare jobs, they're mechanics, they're farmers. Very few of them are professional. The only professional player on the team was Landon Donovan. And they actually, what was so funny was they had to change the rule in the MLS because MLS players were capped at a salary. And because David Beckham was coming from, two big clubs who was being paid enormous amounts of money, they had to change the rule around and say a team is allowed a player. They named it the David Beckham rule. A team is allowed a player that can break the threshold of the salary cap. So obviously at that time, when Beckham came through, he's the one. So they had to change the rules and adjust it to his favor. So obviously he gets their superstar, just to run through this part real quick, but he's greeted with all these celebs, because he's talking about him being friends with Tom Cruise, and Tom is like, look, we're gonna throw this big party with Will, and he's like, Will who? And they're like, Will Smith, and it's like, dang, you know what I mean? It was like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? And he talks about like these celebs rolling through, like Stevie Wonder, and all these people just coming through, and it's like, what? You know what I mean? LA, you know what I'm saying? Like, what made it?
It was like a mama, we made it moment.
Thing, like celebrity, like I think he was like probably one of the first football celebrities. He's the one who made football.
Yeah,
football players cool. They spoke about back in Manchester United, like the biggest celebrities were the musicians, and they're like, he's the first footballer to break that threshold and become an icon and rock star, where people spoke more about him, the football player, than they did about any other celebrity out there. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. He just developed that icon status. So LA was like the perfect playground for his personality.
Ooh. And you know what's funny, D?
Yeah.
Because there's something that we forgot to mention. Actually, this that you were talking about, his way of, like, he was so famous that they even had to look for the if there's one person on earth who doesn't even know who David Beckham was.
Yeah.
And they found that guy in the desert, far away, deep, in the corner there, that didn't know who David Beckham was. But he was literally known by everybody in the it was mad. And funniest thing, and I even said it before the guy even said it, was when they would ask Perez, because they didn't have to buy Beckham at the time. They didn't.
Yeah.
But obviously they bought him, and then they asked him, like, yo, why did you buy Beckham?
Yeah.
It's like Real Madrid tripled its revenue. It tripled its revenue in that first season, and I burst out laughing because I knew exactly. That's why that move, that Galactico era.
It was the business acquisitions, So
so it took him there. Now he goes to America, bruh.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest thing, or one of the things that I actually picked out, was when Victoria said that, at least in LA, when we go out, nobody really cares about us. Nobody's really swarming us and doing anything, because there's Tom Cruise to us here. Will Smith over there, so people will go to them and then leave us alone, and it was just like, ooh,
yeah. So of course now, he's in LA. The season kicks off. He's fit. He's ready. You know what I mean? He gets on the pitch, and then to his to his shock, to his surprise, he gets to witness firsthand the quality of the MLS football, and what killed me was the expression on his face. And the commentator went as far as even commentating about it to say, I don't think Beckham was ready for this. You know what I mean? I don't think he was ready for this quality or type of football that's being played out here. This is not European standard, my friend. This is guys doing this part-time, and then, I think right now what's running through his head is that he has just made the biggest mistake of his life, And there's one thing that he pointed out was, I don't think these guys, because he thought the standards were way higher than that. So his thing was, I don't think these guys understand how football works, because as much as yes, I'm this superstar player, I'm not enough. You understand what I mean? I'm not enough to make this team get to where they want to be. This thing, it needs a whole team. You understand what I'm saying? I can't do everything. And, obviously, he didn't start the match. He made a cameo. And then afterwards, started playing as a starter. But, that was his first time he recorded. Was it 12? 12 straight games without winning, you know? And in the American MLS, I'm sure you guys know, even up till date, they don't have relegation in the MLS. I don't know who gets in, I don't know who gets out. But I remember, who's this guy, Ryan Reynolds? He recently he bought Wrexham with his friend, and he came this side and is like, oh, in America, like football works different. There's no relegation, and if you guys are big fans of Ted Lasso, like me, who watched it, I don't know if any of you guys watched Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso also the same thing. He came to England, it's like, wow, there's no relegation. Like there's relegation here in MLS. There's no relegation. You know what I mean? But they never really explain. I still don't know how you get into the MLS and whatever. But anyway, so yeah, take it from
an
there,
American thing, man.
Yeah, take it from there. So yeah, he experiences like 12 defeats. Like he's like, nah, this thing's not working out. I think I made a big mistake. What happens from there, my guy? Yeah.
So he's playing in this MLS team, and things are just not ticking. Like you said, 12 defeats, and Beckham has always been that guy that when the call up to come and represent his national team comes, if he's still able to play and participate and contribute to the national team, that thing, I don't think there's anything that can stop him in the world. And I think in that documentary, it showed the passion and the drive and the hunger that he had during a time when people were probably saying that he's on the decline. So he's at MLS. Things are just like he's playing for LA Galaxy. The football is absolutely terrible. When I was watching that thing, I started thinking to myself, you know what, Ben? Why didn't you go to America and play jumpstart your football career?
Your career there,
yeah. Because it seemed like that was the channel that I should have taken.
Exactly.
I so wish, because I would have worked my way from there. I would have gotten all the right stuff to get myself. Then I would have gone to the Premier League.
Like Neymar.
I was so disappointed. You just see these farmers, these garden guys coming in there. They're getting paid a monthly salary. I'm assuming training for them wasn't consistent. It was just a bad situation. So Beckham looked at it like, you know what? So he you see his football. Football has this weird, strange thing. The manager for England at the time when he was experiencing all these things was none other than the Real Madrid manager that had exiled him from the team when he was at Real Madrid. Capello. He became England. I think Capello, most people are going to be most fond with him because of him managing England. In terms of the success that they've brought, because there's not really been success, but he's the one manager that has been able to, I guess, make them happy in terms of football. He made things happen. So he calls the gaffer and asks him that, yo, what do I need to do to get into the national team? And it was simple. The manager told him, listen, you want to play in the national team, you need to play first team football at the highest level. That is the requirement.
In Europe.
Yeah. In Europe, you want to play for your national team. You have to be playing in your club high level. Regular starter. Now, he's playing in a league
MLS.
That the level, you can compare it to high school. The high school football in England could have destroyed the MLS. Like literally no grade football, and there's no way you're going to improve because everybody else there is bad. So you're not going to gain anything, and you're not going to, unless you are David Beckham, because I think even if he didn't opt to go on loan, he would have trained himself, or he would have put himself in a zen moment where he will just focus on training in such a way that he's ready and able to represent his country. But I mean, it didn't get to that. So here comes the loan to AC Milan. Now, obviously, that produced problems, and I think I'm gonna let you go more into that because there was another
Yeah.
player who had the same will, same drive, just like him, and
Yeah.
just carry on from there, man.
So Beckham needed to play for an elite team in Europe in order for him to, be considered as part of the England national side. So he gets offered a loan to AC Milan, where he needs to compete in top football so that he can compete for the England World Cup, right? So he goes there and he starts doing his thing and he's excelling, and he's now getting into
Good vibes.
contention. You know what I mean? Good vibes. Getting
Mm.
into contention for him to be part of the England squad, right?
Yeah,
Now, I think it happened like after a game or something like that. They asked him about his current football career,
yeah,
and he mentioned to say, "Look, man, things are going so well here. I think I might as well just stay." You know what I mean? I think I might as well just stay and
yeah.
not go back. And
Mm.
so obviously word went back to America, and these
Hey,
guys were not, you know what I mean? The captain at that time was not happy. The man,
CEO.
the CEO wasn't happy because he's like, nah, fam, we brought you here and you're under contract. Like, if you want us to take the legal route, we'll take the legal route. But we brought you here to be our player. If you think you're just gonna come here, kick a few balls, go to Milan, and then just decide you're gonna stay there for good, that's not happening.
That's
You're
not.
coming back to us whether you like it or not. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? So yeah, obviously he had his stint at AC Milan. He went into the national side. He did his thing. He played for England. He went back to America, and then he wasn't greeted, or he never had the best of of
reception.
welcoming reception,
Yeah,
because his teammate Landon Donovan was not happy with what he did, what he pulled off, or what he was in the process of pulling off. And at
yeah,
that time, he didn't really understand it. You understand what I mean? And when it was sort of broken down to him, he sort of understood how Landon Donovan was feeling because, they compared it to like, look, this is his team. This is his home team. This is the team that, brought him up in his career. It's
yeah,
the team that he wanted to play for when he was a lad, you know. Like, this was his be and end all. This is what the equivalent of LA Galaxy is to him, whether that crap or not, is what is Manchester for you. You know what
yeah.
I mean? You need to respect the way he's feeling right now because he feels that you abandoned them, and just went and did your own thing, and you didn't have the courtesy of at least having that conversation, and you just went and announced it there to the world, right?
Mm,
And then
mm,
obviously in that moment, Landon Donovan also had a moment of weakness where he aired out that beef to the public, and he never kept it in the dressing room. And as we know, David Beckham comes from that culture of, look, whatever happens in the dressing room stays in the dressing room. You should have come to me, and we could have ironed this thing
mm,
out behind closed doors instead of making a spectacle about it. And you went out there and made a spectacle about it. So I think the nice thing is, Landon Donovan was able to see the errors in his way, you know, and he apologized to David Beckham behind closed doors, and also came out in public and said, "Look, I shouldn't have handled it like this. I'm not going to take back the fact that I was angry and I said what I said, but the manner in which I did it was completely wrong." You
mm.
understand? And then, yeah, from that understanding, once again, he pulled off a redemption story with LA Galaxy. They were not
Hey,
they were not doing well in their league, and the pairing of both of them, saw them to their first. I think it was their first title. Yeah, it was
yeah,
their first
yeah.
title. I don't know how many years, or it was their first title ever. But he managed to seal a title for them, and then went on to play for LA Galaxy for the next, was it 4 years or something like that? You know what I mean? So he owed them their loyalty, and he understood where the club came from, and he committed to his decision. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? He didn't
yeah.
pull a cowardly move, and me saying this just bringing up so many emotions that I don't want to speak about. You know what I mean? Because I'm just thinking about
Mm,
both Di Maria, both Sanchez. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I
yeah,
can see him get angry, but let me not talk about it. You know what I mean? That's a chapter for another day.
yeah, yeah.
You talk about the backstabbers of United. That can be an episode. Players who just came through to cash a check and move on.
Yeah.
But Yeah, man. That was a real, nice. You know what, ne? I think out of all the clubs that he played for, right up until this
Yeah,
point, before we get to the last club, I actually like the story. I like the LA Galaxy story probably
yeah,
more so than the Real Madrid and United one.
yeah.
I
Because
think
those
if
were show,
anything,
were for
yes,
show.
exactly,
Yeah. Mm.
exactly. And if anything, I think that's probably the moment in his career that he truly showed how much of an importance he is to a club. Because
Yes.
at Real Madrid, like you said, you were surplus. At United, although we missed him, we still went on and did well without him. But
Mm.
with LA Galaxy, there was that contrast of him being there. Yes, they did lose, but he did add something to them. To them losing and becoming even way more worse than they currently were, for him to come back and take the team to a position that they've never been in, to take them to heights that they've never experienced. And that was almost solely down just to him. You understand what I
Yeah,
mean? He
yeah,
transformed the whole team. And it's very rare in football that you see a big superstar name go to like a lesser team that doesn't have all the top star quality, maybe just a handful of one or two players, and really go and make a huge impact in that side and go and do something about it. Ronaldo hasn't done it. Messi hasn't done it. You know what I mean? When you look at all the greats, they haven't done it.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
directly going to mention those two because they're considered the goats of our generation and possibly of all time. And
yeah.
I'm not trying to take anything away from them,
Mm.
but we have always seen them being put in a setting that's organized. Even their
For
national
them,
team, for
yeah,
them, even their national team, you can't say the national team is weak compared to someone like Lewandowski playing for Poland. You know what I mean? Ronaldo can't complain about the players around him. Messi can't complain about the players around him. All the teams that they've gone to, they can't complain about the players around them. But always had quality top to bottom. Whereas Beckham never had that backup support. He
yeah,
had to carry the team on his shoulders. You know what I mean? He had to go out there single handedly and change a whole club's season by himself. You know what I mean? And
mm.
that's levels. That's
That's
levels.
that's actually why I compared him to people like Michael Jordan,
Yes.
Kobe Bryant. These are
Yes.
people that, despite their surroundings,
Mm.
despite who they were the catalyst. They are the
Yes.
significant change. You know what
Yes.
I mean? I can
Yeah.
even I can even give a good analogy, a football analogy, if people want to even understand this thing more.
Yeah.
Remember the remember the Chelsea Champions League, the recent one, where Kai
Yes.
Havertz won.
Yeah.
I always reference this season because there was one standout player for them. One.
Okay.
And without him,
Yeah.
Chelsea were never going to win that Champions League. I can bet you,
Yeah.
or I can bet you my life. I can tell you right now. And that was
Yeah.
N'Golo Kante.
Kante. Yes.
N'Golo Kante. Come
Yes.
from round of 16 till the final.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. That guy was
Yeah.
boss.
Yeah.
Boss, boss, boss. And
Immaculate.
hey, and you noticed because
Mm.
that season was funny because they kind of like made it like that he only played in the Champions League, and then in the Premier League he wasn't really playing. He was just making young cameos because he was
Yeah.
injured and stuff. So they managed him very well, and the
Yes.
difference was significant. So
Yeah.
this is one of the things that made me love Beckham even more.
Yeah.
Being that impactful player, that player
Yeah.
that the last minute. There are a lot of these
Yeah.
questions. It's 95 minutes. You
Yeah.
are down 2-1. This
Yeah.
goal, you are given Ronaldo,
Yeah. Yeah.
Beckham.
Yeah.
Who do
Beckham.
you go to? If you want to be safe, you pick
Yeah.
Bex
You
because
pick
there
backs.
it's a guaranteed top
Yeah.
bins.
Yeah.
Guaranteed
Game
top
changer.
bins.
Yeah.
Game
Pull a
changer.
rabbit out of hat. Pull a fucking rabbit out of hat in front of.
Ah, you
Mm-hmm.
know, this game we've played Real Madrid when we played Real Madrid home and away during that season when he was trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
Beckham pulled wicked things during those
Yeah.
games. People don't
Yeah.
know. It
Yeah.
was a show of Figo and Beckham. Figo hits
Yeah.
this curler, goes in. Like, can you do it? Beckham is like,
Yeah.
yo, are you
Yeah. Yeah.
say less? Say less. I got you. Ding. Bruh,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were just messing around with curveballs. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, Man, I'm sorry, everybody. I love Beckham. I love him.
Yeah,
I love him. I
yeah,
want to meet this man. I don't know if there's anybody that's gonna ever listen to this, and even if you're a celebrity or whoever, I am begging you to tell this to Beckham himself that if I could meet this man, he's
yeah.
such a great man.
True,
He's a great
true,
man.
true.
Family man, um, family man,
Ambassador,
ambassador, bruh, everything. Top
legend of the
player, elite
game.
mentality, everything in he's got it all. He's got it
True,
all. The
true,
only thing that was missing for me is the Ballon d'Or.
true, true.
The Ballon d'Or. He came
Ballon
very
d'Or, World
close.
Cup. I mean, he played for two incredible World Cup teams,
Yeah.
and it's just so weird. You know, we keep asking this question of England have had a very strong team for a very long time, and it's so weird that up till now they haven't managed to make anything of it. I mean, recently during the day, we are speaking about the current team. You know, went on Jude Bellingham. You know, Phil Foden, Harry Kane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Rashford,
yeah.
Saka. Um, what score is not Scott McTominay? Who's this other guy? The City player who plays on the left wing. Grealish, Jack Grealish.
Grealish,
You know,
Grealish.
Stones, Walker. You know, Cahill. Who was in that defense? James, Chris
Mm,
James. Like
mm.
and there's Ollie Watkins. Like the talent just goes on and on and on. You know, probably this is the best England roster that the country has ever had. You know what I mean? And you
And
just
we'll
expect
probably have.
less. Exactly. You
Mm.
just expect nothing less but greatness. But of course, this is the Beckham show, so we're gonna, dive back into that.
Yeah,
There's this
yeah,
running theme in the documentary where, Posh talks about Victoria Beckham, guys. Posh was a Spice Girl name, but if you know about Victoria Beckham better, let's stick to Victoria. There's
yeah.
this running theme during the series where, Beckham just, when football came calling, he went, and then Victoria was sort of dragged, along with the madness because herself she wasn't a football fan, as many, never thought not to be, or I don't know if I've said that properly, but you guys will get what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
anyway, he's done with LA Galaxy. They move back to England. They feel it's the best time to come back home, be with family, see out the rest of their lives. And then PSG comes calling, comes knocking on Beckham's door, and without even thinking or consulting, this man, he's like, football is calling. You know
Bro.
what I mean?
Man.
Can't
I would
say
have
no.
done exactly the same. I'm not even kidding. I was laughing. I was laughing because I was just like, I would have done the same. I literally would have gone.
And called when you're in Paris. Like,
Bro.
babes,
Ah,
look,
ah.
I'm training for the PSG match on the weekend. What PSG match? What's going on? Like, Ed, bruh, I forgot to tell you, I signed the contract yesterday. We need to look for more schools for their kids. Like, just, you know what I mean? Blindsided to everything. I'm sure at that point Victoria is like, nah, stuff you, fam. Stuff you.
You
Like,
know that
France is right here. It's not America. I'll
yeah.
commute. I'll commute. Stuff you. I'll commute. I'm, I'm not moving. I'm done.
Oh
I'm
man.
done. I've had it. You know?
Beckham showed how, like, if people never understood how when footballers talk about, I just want to play football, or I
Forever.
just want to be a professional footballer forever. When you
Yeah.
see that, and then when you don't hear them talking about academics and stuff, and
Mm,
then you wonder why.
yeah.
David, but it showed, like,
Yeah.
when football calls,
Yeah.
nothing in the world. Here's the funny thing. Newsflash to you. When I'm
Mm,
depressed or sad, football is the only thing that makes me happy. If
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
down and out and everything like that, football makes me happy. Kicking
Football.
a ball makes me happy. Putting a ball in the top bins makes me happy.
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
the smell of the grass makes me happy.
Yeah.
Everything related to football makes
Yeah.
me happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you going to sit here and still think that I would choose otherwise? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But you know what I liked today?
Yeah.
I liked it because he fulfilled, he scratched that itch.
Yeah.
However, his body told
Yeah.
him that Nah, man, it's enough. You've given the
It's
world
it's
everything.
time. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
time. You know,
It's time.
he mentioned the how it is for a player. I think it's a running theme. You start to
Yeah,
wake up tired.
yeah,
In most sportsmen, you start to feel like it's a drag.
yeah,
And recovery when you're
yeah.
older takes longer.
Man.
You need to be more strategic.
Yeah,
It's not like when you're young, you just go to bed,
yes,
wake up tomorrow, you're fresh. Nah, when you're
yeah,
older,
yeah,
it's different. So all
exactly.
those things were taking its toll on him, and he was
Yeah,
listening to his body. And I just liked how he was like, yeah, you know what? It was not about becoming a drag. And when you start feeling like it's a drag after it has
yeah,
been your bread and butter your entire life, you
yeah,
know that it's
yeah,
time. So
yeah,
the transition was a
yeah.
beautiful way to leave sport
True,
at the
man.
highest level. You know what I mean? And
And
unlike other people who they are going to lesser leagues to go and actually finish
yeah,
their, and I know we always banter PSG and say PSG are in a farmers league, but at the
yeah,
time you look
yeah,
at that PSG team was full of superstars,
yeah,
Matuidi,
yeah.
Zlatan, you name it, those guys were all there. So
True,
he left on a very nice high, and I think PSG won the season that year. So he walked away with a
exactly,
Ligue 1, a League
exactly.
1,
Yeah,
So yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
It's touching moments. You're shedding tears. That last game, I'm like, oh my god, like this man, like
But it was beautiful. It was
it was.
beautiful.
Obviously, I've never been what you call this a football player like you, for example.
Yeah,
I love football, but my trade was always somewhere else in terms of playing.
yeah.
But the way I love football so much, when I saw David Beckham crying, it just reminded me so much about how women. And I'm not taking any things at women, so everybody relax before you know what I mean, start canceling us, you know. But but you know how they just always on top of guys who love football and say, you can cry about this, but you don't want to cry about this in a relationship, or you better cry like the way you're crying at that match. And it just reminds me of that time when we're playing a United derby. It was, I think, 2018 or 2017, somewhere around there. The game that we came back and we won 3-2, and I think it was Smalling who scored the winning goal. Pogba
Yeah,
scored the second one. I
yeah.
remember the match. It was so intense, fam. It was so intense. Fam, that's the first match I've ever watched and cried. You know, and it was that time. I think it was during the Mourinho era. I can't remember what was going on, but we needed to win that game. That game was just like we couldn't lose it. You know what I mean? I can't remember what was surrounded that match or whatever, but I remember that match, fam. I remember I spoke about it so much because my family members knew about it, Chuma knew about it, my wife, everyone is like, oh, D is just like ready for this match. You know what I mean? The game came, we're watching it at my cousin's place, the family was there, and then there we go. City just doing that thing. 1-0, gotta. 2-0. At this, I know I started the game happy. When it was
That was the
2-0,
season
fam.
that they were going to win the league with if they beat us. I
Yes,
think.
yes, 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 yes. That's the match. It was like
Yeah,
if they beat us, they win the league. So we needed
yeah.
to beat them. Well,
At
you're not gonna win the
Etihad.
league beating us. You're not gonna win the league.
Yeah,
Go win the league beating someone else, but not us, fam. So yeah, at 2-0, I was emotional. I was emotional.
man.
Fam, like I've got this one cousin of mine, bruh. She was bantering me, and I was pissed. You know what I mean? Because she knew how much that match meant to me. My other cousin was a Liverpool fan. He didn't even try banter because he could just see my eyes, the flames. You know what I mean? And guys, you don't banter guys when you see flames in the eyes because hey, this guy will just hit me across the face. You understand what I mean? But
yeah,
obviously, she's a female. She's like, this dude can't touch me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be
yeah.
in his face. You know what I mean? Second half comes, fam. Boom, 1-0. I was so emotional. I couldn't even celebrate, fam. I was just like, I was just there holding my face. You know what I?
I'm not buying
I'm
this.
like, I'm not buying it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Boom, 2-0, fam. Man, I felt like my soul was leaving my body. Fam,
Okay,
I
yeah,
was about to depart from the earth, fam. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And then Chris Smalling. You know what I
Hey,
mean? Chris Smalling, out of all people, you know,
Right.
he pulled up a McTominay, out of all people, goes and saves the fam. I broke down in tears. I didn't even celebrate. I cried. You know what I mean? I cried. You know, I cried so hard. Like, literally, my family couldn't believe it, fam. And I think that's the first time they witnessed and they knew how much I loved the game and how much I
Yeah.
loved my club. You know what
Nah,
I
man,
mean?
that game
And
was
since that
emotional.
day, they're like, yeah, nah, with yeah. You know, so I can just imagine now, you know, like Beckham who played the game and,
Right.
you know, this is his last game. Like, I could just see they're like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, the snot bubbles and, you know, the chest just, you know, shortage of breath. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I don't believe this is the last time I'm going
Yeah.
to
And then
raise
he
the
started getting overwhelmed. Yeah. Yeah.
overwhelmed. You know what I mean, fam? It
I,
was
I
deep. It
dude,
was
you know
deep,
what?
fam.
I saw that and I got shivers, man. That hit
Dude,
me so
bruh,
hard
it hit home. It hit
because
home. I was
I,
about
I,
to, you know what
I
I
want to
mean?
tell you guys a little story about myself. So this was before, like this was when I decided to stop pursuing my football career, and this is
Mm,
like what 2019, 2018. I
yeah,
am in sports, you know, I'm trying to get into the league. So I have my trials with Haboroni United,
yeah,
and hey, you know what it is about training and keeping yourself fit. You know, you go through these roller coasters. If you spend like a week not training or not doing anything, you kind of lose the fitness that you had. And
yeah,
I remember before leaving to Botswana, because I was here,
yeah,
I was training, I was fit. But then I took almost 7 days. Like it took me 4 days to get to Bots because we were traveling by bus, and
yeah,
then to actually get to the trial, it was like more days. So even
yeah,
between that, I didn't train. I just went straight for the
yeah,
training session on my first day, bro.
yeah.
My body gave in. But
Mm,
here's the
mm,
thing, like that first training is not really a big deal for me because I just need to get my things running. But because I hadn't trained in a week or a week and a half, I'd lost so much, and all the other players, they were
yeah,
already at high level. You know, this is a professional club. They're
yeah,
already play. Yeah, so I'm trialing out. Man, I'm trailing behind and all that stuff. Oh well
mm,
and cool. They had paid for my trials. Like I was staying in a relocation thing that they'd paid for, and
yeah,
then eventually I started building my momentum. I started getting better and better. And then the coach started noticing, oh, okay, so this is the player that we brought in. All right, cool. And that took me about 2 weeks. But that
yeah,
was too late.
yeah,
That was too late. These guys had already moved on. The coach was starting to like me. But they were like, nah, man, hey, we need to move on because they were in the premiership. So I'm like,
yeah,
cool. So then I went to another team. And now this team, they were in the first division. That team
yeah,
that was in the league, this one that I'm going to is in the division, the first
yeah,
division.
yeah,
Again, same thing, you know, the traveling and stuff. Sometimes I'm training, sometimes I'm not. And I don't know what it is, D. After the first rejection from this team in the Premier League, I
yeah,
don't know what the hell it was, but in the back of my mind, I just knew that I couldn't take another disappointment. It was like this was it.
yeah,
If I don't get in anymore, like I'm done. I'm done trying because I
yeah,
get depressed through the whole roller coaster. That's a topic
yeah,
for another day. But anyway, I
yeah,
get there. I'm training with this team. I am on fire. I am lighting those guys up. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I even
yeah,
tried to make friends with the coach because the coach was even Zimbabwean
mm,
and he was speaking in Debele. So I started speaking to him in Debele because I schooled in Zimbabwe. I know the language. So I was trying to
yeah,
make friends, you know, trying to talk to him and make sure that he understands. And I was even telling him, listen, you don't need to pay me wicked money. I just want to
yeah,
play. I just want a chance to get
yeah,
into
yeah,
the and represent. Even if you
true.
don't pay me, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah,
would think that a coach, somebody telling you that you don't have to pay me, I just want to
yeah,
get it. You think, oh, this guy's like he's got nothing to lose. He's giving
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
These guys come to me on the last like 2 days before the window closes
Okay.
because I'm trialing during the window.
Yeah,
And it's that moment where they're picking players, teams are coming in, they're sending scouts all over.
yeah,
Then these guys, after the training, they just come to me and they're like, yo, the club, they can't afford to sign a foreign player.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
you guys don't need to pay me. Like, nah, we don't have money. I'm like, yo, I don't need a salary. I'll come here and
Yeah.
my own thing. I just want to play. Just put
Just
me
what
in.
up? Yeah.
Register me. Man, you guys,
Yeah.
and the team was already on the road to going to the Premier League. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They were
Yeah.
top of the Division 1. You know, they
Yeah.
were getting there. They just needed somebody to add a little bit of hat tricks, which I was going
Yeah.
to do that for them, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then just take them to the next level. And I knew in my heart of hearts that I just wanted to get in and the rest would be history. I knew that
Yeah.
I was going to move from that team into another better team or just
Yeah.
go and resurrect my career. But
Yeah.
once they told me that, bruh, I started tearing up. The way Beckham
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
like the way he started, I started feeling overwhelmed, started getting anxiety. I started feeling like, and I was like, Ben, are you gonna try again? I'm like, no, man, this is it. I'm tired. I'm sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm crying. I was upset. And I'm
Yeah.
like, nah, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when I broke down,
Mm.
bro. And I
Mm.
didn't know what to do with myself because I was like, this was literally what I was doing my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do with myself right now. I've
Yeah.
never thought about being anything or doing anything other than being a professional football player. So
Yeah.
that moment when he's crying during the game and he feels it,
Yeah. Yeah. It
it
hits
hit
home.
home. It hit
It hits
home.
home. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. But yeah, man. Thanks for sharing that, man. Beautiful
Yeah,
story. And that's the end of the Beckham documentary. Obviously after that, he still continued with these antics, ran to Miami to start Inter Miami.
he didn't stop.
He didn't
He
stop,
didn't
and
stop.
Victoria just came to just accept that this is Beck's, man. His first love will always be football. You know what I mean? Obviously,
Bro,
he respects family and he loves her, but there's just always that place in his heart that's specially reserved for football, and you just can't take that away. And us as fans, we are something like that. There's just something about, I don't know what it is. I almost compare it to, because me, I'm a petrol head as well.
yeah.
And they just talk about man and machine, how it's just weird how men just love automobiles. It's like it's baked into our DNA. There's just something about a guy and a car, that relationship, it goes beyond and above everything. And that's sort of like how football is to us. you know
Mm.
they say, a man can change his barber, he can, not his barber, his man can change whatever, but he can't change his football team. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
If
yeah.
anything that will stay loyal to his football team, girls will come and go, jobs will come and go, everything will come and go, but his football team and his barber. You know what I mean? We
And
stay loyal.
and
So
adding to that, just seeing how he transitioned from, obviously it's very difficult for these professional players to let go of the game, but he
yeah,
immediately just jumped back into it, looking for a team and stuff like that. And
yeah,
just like me, after I had that disappointment, I'm like, what am I gonna do with myself?
yeah,
I still love the game. I have not contributed enough. So I
yeah.
need to find a way back. And here we are. Here we
Yeah,
are, and we are
we
finding our ways and our avenues. And you
exactly.
know what? Things will we will talk. You will see.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
never know.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, but that's the Beckham documentary, guys. It's a good watch if you're a huge United fan, if you're a huge Beckham fan, if you're a huge football fan. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I think out of all the documentaries I've watched, I this is definitely ranking on top three. You know what I mean? Your
yeah,
guys
it's
Beckham.
right up there.
I'm a me and Ronaldo. You know what I mean? So when that Ronaldo docu movie dropped, I was all over it like a fly on shit. You know what I mean?
I
And
do.
you know,
Yeah.
and I don't want to I don't want to compare whose story is better than the other. But it's sort of like all these guys who have um these docu series. It's like the ones who have become like these legendary football players of the world. They all come from like similar backgrounds. They came from like poor establishments. When you look at
players like Wayne Rooney. He never came from a rich background. You look at Messi, when you look
Yeah.
at Ronaldo on the streets of Portugal, you know what I mean? This skinny, scrawny kid is like, I'm going to be the best in the world. You're just like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what I mean? And then he goes and does it. You know what I mean? And Beckham as well, coming from humble beginnings. And, there's just something about those, rags to riches, you know what I mean? So to say, stories that are just so inspiring, but
Very.
definitely on top there as one of the best. Even you know what, Ned, the documentary. I don't want to stunt on it. You know what I mean? I actually didn't finish it. Could the story have
I
been
did.
told better? Yes.
I did.
I'll probably go back and finish it, and maybe we'll come and discuss it, like how we discussed this one. But even him, coming when you look at his upbringing, the projects of France in which he grew up in. You know what I mean? The crime that was in that area, how he played football to get out of that area, and strive to become a world. Pogba, man, Pogba is also one. I think Pogba deserves an episode. You know what I mean? Because he's one player that he should be further along in his career. He should have gone down as one of the greats, and it's just things, man. But we'll get into it. But anyway, like I
And
said, yeah,
yeah,
go.
about Pogba, I feel like with the documentary, I feel like it is too soon. He's still young. Like
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah. I get
do
you.
your
Yeah,
documentary and stuff after you have hung your boots. You know what I mean? Not during. And when
yeah,
you watch it, because I have, man, it's gonna
yeah.
rub you the wrong way. Like you're going to compare it to the Beckham one, and you're gonna agree with me. Like, yeah,
The thing
nah,
is, you know what, Ben? I've watched
yeah,
enough. I haven't
yeah,
finished it, but I think I've
yeah.
watched like 3, 4 episodes. I've watched a good chunk of it. Like what I'm left with
Okay,
is very little, you know.
okay,
And I
okay.
think, and like you said, yes, it was too soon. But
Mm.
I think that documentary was more to highlight about what went wrong at United. If he should have rather just come out with like, yes,
Especially,
obviously it involved his backstory and how he got here and whatever. But it's sort of like the whole purpose was kind of like it's not sort of like a backstory of what went wrong at United, basically. If
yes,
maybe I'm
yes.
wrong, you know what I mean?
With
Because you
the
have finished it.
United curtain hanging at the back. That's like the
Exactly,
background. Yeah,
exactly. So I
yeah,
feel it should have just been like maybe an interview or a short story or whatever. You should have just come
yeah,
out with like a short story of what went wrong at United, so we could have all known the truth. But for him to tell his whole story, that I can agree with you to say it came too soon because
yeah.
he should have finished football and then
Mm,
come out with that. I mean, obviously with Ronaldo, it's a bit understandable because he did everything he needed to do in football. Of course, didn't win the World Cup, but his career already spanned more than 20 years. For it to come, he won everything except
yeah,
Ballon d'Or,
yeah,
Euro, Premier League, FA Cup, La Liga, Champions League. Da, da, da. You understand what I mean? So it was okay at that time for it to come out, but I think the Pogba one, yes, I think that one was just way too soon because when the Ronaldo one came out, she was in his 30s. You know,
yeah,
when this
yeah.
Pogba one came out, she was what? She's not even yet 30. You understand what I mean? Wow, why,
Nah,
why, why are you giving us a documentary now? You understand what I mean? And I think also the name, I get it, but I think also the name is just a bit cheesy. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I mean,
The
it's his brand,
documentary.
but
I
I
get
get
it,
it.
but it was
Yeah.
like this year inventory. You know what I mean? Imagine if Ronaldo did something stupid like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was just called Cristiano. I can't remember what it was called. The Ronaldo CR7. It was just simple. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's documentary. Like it literally just became a meme. You know what I mean? So I think he just set himself up for like more problems in his career. But like I said, we'll get to that another time, and we'll probably come up with a Pogba thing. But other than that, once again, guys, go on Netflix, go and catch it. It's a good watch. You'll really enjoy it. And yeah, I think that's it. If there's anything else you would like to say before we close off this episode, you can go ahead
yeah.
and
I mean, this one is for the new United fans because we have new United fans who
oh yeah,
don't understand. They know that this has happened, but they don't really understand the history of United. They're there,
yeah,
but some
yeah,
of you, most of you, I think the 90s baby, most of you guys are well in tune with what happened at United. It's just
yeah,
for the earlier generation that might not know. And if you
yeah,
want to get a sense of how things were, if you want to
yeah,
get and understand why we are complaining, why a lot of
yes,
people make references to
yeah,
back then, it's a good watch. It's a
It's
very,
true.
very good watch. It will
Yeah.
take, and you need to imagine. You need to put yourself in that time. Don't stick to I'm in this time and watch it, but then have an open perspective. Just put yourself in that time and say, wow, we were winning Premier League after Premier League after Premier League. Really?
Yeah.
Yes, it was like that. And man, it's amazing.
And you know what, Ben? I don't know what it is, but yes, City have sort of like become the new big boys in the Premier League, but I don't know. There was just something about United that was just more fearful. You know what I mean? Yes, we know City are good. Yes, we know they're a strong club. But I don't know. They don't exude that fear factor that United used to exude. You know what I mean? Like United,
nobody will get it.
Teams just didn't. No one will get it. Like no team liked to face United. United was just the problem because United was that team. United and especially at Old Trafford, because United had that thing of you think you're winning, you think you are winning, and then in 2 minutes you'll be left scratching your head, and the whole Old Trafford is erupting, and somehow they have won, and you'll be like, but how? How? You know what I mean? Like, it reminds me of the match, the classic United versus Spurs, 3-0 down. 5-0, 5-3, end of game. You'll be scratching your head, asking yourself, how?
Coming back.
The Ronaldo, you know what I mean? You'll be like, but how? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, United were ruthless, Back then, if you score against United, you're sentencing yourself to death. You know what I mean? You scored against us. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you? Do you understand what I'm saying? And for some reason, City don't have that. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a hater. Maybe I'm being biased, but I just don't. I don't get it from City. I don't get it. Like, the way we used to have that. You know
the thing is, D. Nowadays, success is based on statistics, the number of trophies, and all these things. They forget about like the actual things that you used to put people in fear. Because there's no way. Yeah, City are the best team in the world, but they don't send shivers down our spine. Nah,
they don't. We just know they play good football. You know what I mean? And they're gonna go out players.
And we're like, it's a derby, and we know we can put them in the asses because it's a 50-50. So we're like,
exactly. Except going to the fixed thing 50-50. Yeah, no, those days was we're here for blood. You know that we're not here to play. We don't care. You know what I mean? And I know we're having the discussion in the group the other day when we're talking about, but if we get Victor Osimhen, what's going to happen to Rasmus? Like, so don't you remember United? Once upon a time there was Falcao, there was Van Persie, there was Rooney, there was Welbeck, there was Chicharito, there was I'm missing one more. Six strikers. Six strikers. United were never short of strikers. We had world-class strikers all the time. Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo in one team. There's nothing about, no, what about this player? Then this player going to get benched. Then the player's going to cry and say, man, I want to lead the dude. Competition.
This is why we actually wanted to do this series because we are seeing the contrast and the look at that.
Dude, Real Madrid had Figo. They went and got Beckham.
Dude, they didn't need him, but they bought him.
Like us who are building a war machine here, we've got no time. We've no time to start bringing Mang off the bench. No, Mang needs to be a Galactico. You understand? And United was sort of like its own Galactico in England.
Yeah.
You're not bringing funny people off the bench. No, every player is impact player, baba. There was nothing like, this guy is coming in. No, every player was. But forget it. Yeah.
I think just to also add, and as we're closing off, this is something that we need to mention. We have had one of the greatest captains of our time, during our time, in Pino. You remember, there was a part in his series that made my heart go wild. Like, I saw myself even going, come on, yeah. It was the time when Beckham was going through his troubles, and people are giving him shit. Even the opposition players, people are kicking him and stuff. And Keane is like, whoa, we're not gonna let this shit happen, especially when you got me in your team. I went crazy. I went mad deep because I was Keane.
Yeah.
I don't think we will ever experience another Keane. Just as we will never experience another Fergie. You know?
Yeah.
So man, that was beautiful. That
beautiful era.
So mad.
Beautiful era. You know, because I know you've watched Ted Lasso. You know, Roy Kent. Roy Kent's like my favorite character in Ted Lasso. So Roy Kent's character is actually based off Roy Keane. So when they wrote this, based it off Roy Keane. Because every time I used to watch Ted Lasso, I'd always tell Chuma that Ted Lasso is like Roy Keane. You know what I mean? So you watch these like funny YouTube videos of like
there's an impersonator. There's also another impersonator guy who does this good Roy Keane impersonation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know him. The white. I think he's Connor something. He does Mourinho. He does.
Yes. Yeah. But now, man, we'll continue this. We'll have another open discussion another talk about this stuff that was talked about, towards the end of this episode. But let's conclude this one. So you've said what you've said. So let me close that out. Thank you once again, you guys, for listening to this episode of the Glory Reds podcast. This was a special that we brought to you guys. So hopefully you guys would love it. We know it's it's gone over time than the usual running time, but we believe it was a good one. So catch it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Zencaster, Spotify, all your favorite streaming podcasting platforms were there. Don't forget to visit our website, gloryredsfc.co.uk. You can go find our latest blog articles, jump into our community page, join our WhatsApp group so we can be having these great conversations online. Don't forget to follow our social media accounts. We're Glory Reds FC on all platforms. And most importantly, don't forget to join our Fantasy Premier League because EPL is back next weekend, and we expect to see a whole bunch of you in that league because we want to have a lot of people in there. Want to involve you guys, become more competitive so that eventually we can even create some sort of like tournament where we can win some stuff, you know what I mean, based off the competitiveness inside the league. But with that being said, thank you once again for listening to this episode of the Glory Reds podcast, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.